Hello, welcome back everyone to the Creator Spotlight. Here on the Spotlight, there's a face you may know, you may remember, Jaychele Nicole from Wrestling With Whiteness. The documentary comes out on May 28th, and also from our pals over at the Late Night Grin. Jaychele, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here talking about Wrestling with Whiteness, and it's a passion project of mine, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into that. So, Wrestling with Whiteness is the documentary that again comes out on May 28th, and I'm just gonna read the curriculars here. A documentary on being black in professional wrestling business. You put all this together. You interviewed a ton of talent for this. Everyone from Ricky Starks, Big Swole, Alex Kane, Darius Lockhart, Khan, Moses, Reverend Ron Hunt, Tasha Steeles, a ton more that I could go on about. I've seen it. I've watched the entire preview. I love it. I thought you did a great job with it. It's broken up into 5 sections. There's not only wrestlers, there are content creators on here as well. People may know. Also, my Malcolm, Will Washington, Public Enemies podcast. So a bunch of people who you may know, or people, if you don't know, you'll get familiar with very quickly. So I just want to start with, how did this idea come about for you?
Yeah, so actually, it was um, I want to say December. I came up with the idea. I was trying to think of my senior thesis project for school. Actually, I'm a senior in high school, and I had to do a project, and it was supposed to be around my internship, and I was teaching at the time, but I was like, no, I want to do something in the wrestling world, and my background is in social justice. I've been a youth organizer since I was 13 years old or so. So I've always had interest in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm now going on to study that in college. But I always wanted to see how I could kind of intermingle what I was doing in the wrestling world with interviews and podcasts and stuff with my passion for social justice. And it kind of just turned out being my final project, which is Wrestling with Whiteness.
Nice.
Yeah. So congratulations, by the way, on graduating high school.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I remember going through that. Me and Jeremy were like the same age.
We're
That was a long
old.
time ago. That was a long time ago. Where were you, Jeremy? I was 2006.
Oh, graduate? Yeah, 06.
Yeah, 06. Yeah. So
Very
congratulations
don't
on
don't
that.
do this shocked face. Like, we are old.
Oh yeah,
Come
we're
on.
old. We're old. But Jaychele, so like how did that all kind of like with you getting into like wrestling media and deciding to like cover wrestling more and devote a lot of like your time and energy to wrestling, did that come like let me know how that kind of came about. I'm sure obviously you were like a fan of wrestling, but it sounds like you're also like very involved in just other stuff, and you've always been driven to just be involved in a bunch of different things. I mean, you mentioning you being a part of these clubs and groups and stuff since you were like 13 years old and in like pretty important fields. So how did this all like come together where you're spending so much of your time like devoted to wrestling nowadays?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the pandemic, I kind of circled back to wrestling. I started watching back in April of like 2014-ish. But then I stopped once I got to high school because it just like wasn't cool or whatever. But once quarantine came, I was like, well, I need something to do. So I just started watching wrestling again. I remember the first show that I watched back was like WrestleMania 36, I think, or something like that. But after that, it was kind of like a year or so, I want to say, before I started like really engaging on Twitter and stuff. I saw like the stuff that Fightful was doing, and I was like super engaged in like their podcast, and I was like, I think I could do something like this because my background has always been in like public speaking. I've given speeches my whole life, and I like to think I'm quick on my toes. I would do interviews with my newspapers and stuff like that. So I thought that I would be good at it. And I just quickly began to find myself kind of trying to analyze wrestling like I saw the people on YouTube doing as well, and kind of trying to mimic that, but with my own interests and my own point of views, especially as a young woman of color who has a background in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I feel like is a really unique thing that I bring to the table when it comes to being in wrestling media. Um, I don't really know how I got to spending all my time on this. It kind of just happened. I was on the distraction, the women's takeover with Kate. After that, I joined Body Slam. I became the co-managing editor. I have since left Body Slam, but everything happened really quickly. So it started back in November, I want to say.
Gotcha.
It's
Yeah, I want to add real quick. It's cool that you have. We talked about this with Muscle Man Malcolm when we interviewed him a while back as well. But like y'all's generation, it's just so wild. Like the access that y'all have to broadcasting because for one, it makes it really hard in some ways to get noticed because so many people have access to being able to do it. But in other ways, it's making it a lot easier because like you're able to do it. And like when I was around your age, when I was in college, I had to do like college radio, college magazines, because like YouTube was, I mean, it was like brand new and you couldn't make money on it. It was so out of the realm of like, so I think it's really, really cool seeing people around your age taking the initiative so young to like really dive in, because the technology is there. And if you have the drive to get involved, you can, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that you got back into wrestling during the pandemic, because I feel like that's when a lot of people realized, hey, there's other stuff I can actually be watching instead of this pro wrestling stuff. So for you to actually rediscover your love for wrestling during the pandemic is kind of crazy to hear. How did you balance, everything going on with high school? Because I know you were, I guess, what's the superlative, super senior? Like you were very much. I know the grades were high and everything. So you were doing all that, and I know all the work you were doing with various outlets like Body Slam and doing different shows and stuff. How'd you find the balance on that? And then moving forward, going into college this year, like what are you thinking when it comes to the balance with everything?
Yeah, so with high school, I actually go to a career technical center school, whatever, like um there's a more flexible model in my school. So I would actually spend Wednesdays and Fridays fully at home. I was able to just focus on my wrestling stuff. My advisor was super flexible and allowed me to make wrestling my internship eventually. So I just kind of transferred all of my time into that, and all of my projects were based around wrestling. I just finished for my senior year. I have to write a final like thesis paper, and it was about Black women in wrestling and the misogynoir that they face, and it was 16 pages. And it didn't even really feel like work. It just all felt so natural that I was able to kind of convert what I was doing in the wrestling media side to my schoolwork, and to do that back and forth as well. Like Wrestling with Whiteness is my final project for school. It's my final high school project, but it's also this really big piece of who I want to be in the wrestling media world. So, college as well. Oh God, I have no clue. I literally filled out my housing application today. I'm hoping for a single dorm, so I can still do my podcasts and stuff like that, or a suite, but the suite has like different bedrooms or whatever. So something like that, something where I can at least be alone, and not have to kind of split it with a roommate.
Just kick them out. You're like, look, I got to talk about wrestling for a couple hours here. So you just need to go away, find something to do, go to study, go get lunch, just kick them out. It'll be fine.
Man, times have changed so much. I remember in college, for me, I was a sport management major. And so like a lot of my classes were sports based, and I had to write all these papers about just different things that had to do with sports. And anytime I'd wanted to write something about pro wrestling, my professors would be like, that's not a sport. You got to hit like an actual sport. And I'd be like, well, now people are covering it in high school. That's cool as hell. That's awesome. Though, like things have changed so much. So how excited are you for college? Because like I remember that feeling and being like super, super nervous. But honestly, college was probably the best time I ever had in my life, and I think you're gonna love it as well.
I'm excited. I'm not very far from home, which is better. My original plan was I was moving to Georgia, and I was going to school there. And I eventually do want to move to Georgia. That's my like eventual landing spot.
Which college, by the way?
Oh, I was going to go to Spelman.
Okay, I know about Spelman. I went to Georgia Southern. I actually live in Atlanta, so
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I visit Atlanta pretty regularly. Like I'm going back there this summer. My sister lives down there, which is kind of why my family was looking at moving. But now I'm only like 50 minutes away, an hour max away from my family. So that's makes me feel really comfortable. But it's also far enough to like stay away for a little while too, which is the perfect balance for me. And I picked a major that I really liked. All the other colleges that I was looking at, none of them had the diversity, equity, and inclusion major that I was looking for, but Bentley has it, which is where I'll be attending. And I also can get a business focus on it. My background's in social justice, but I've also been an entrepreneur. I've started 5 businesses and organizations. Like the time I turned 12, I started my first business. So I've always kind of just been an entrepreneur and very adaptable. So I'm excited for college. I'm also definitely a self-advocate. So if I need something, I'll always make sure I get it, which I feel like is going to come in handy there. But I'm not really interested in the friends piece of college. I really don't want any of that. That all sounds annoying.
People are terrible generally. So like I'm with you on that. all your friends talk about wrestling, just hang out with us
Right?
all the time. You don't need actual, real life friends. That's what
Well, so once again, when we were that age, Jeremy, at best we could watch the primitive YouTubers just all fighting each other. There was no Twitter.
Oh yeah.
There was no Twitter wrestling community. It was all the IWC and the YWC. Now at least you can have friends all over the world,
Yeah.
or people that hate you. I mean, if you get big enough, everyone just starts hating you, unfortunately.
Jaychele, what do you know about hate on Twitter? You ever gotten that before?
Oh no, I've never experienced that. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Especially not from like former coworkers either. It's great.
Oh, well, I don't know. We don't need to get into
You want to go and dive into that?
Shoot on former coworkers. I don't know if we need all that.
No. Well, hey, let me ask you about current coworkers, okay? Because you got some good current coworkers, friends of ours in the late night grin. I want to hear about that. And Jeremy, feel free to circle back to the school questions if you'd like to later on, because I'm fascinated with how young you are, like how impressive that you are. I think it's very, very cool to see. But it's also kind of funny to see with the guys over there at Late Night Grin. So what's that been like? What was kind of your in with them? I know you knew them a little bit before you got involved, but what was kind of your in over there? And what's it been like doing all these podcasts with guys like Bob O'Neill, Jude, and of course Joseph Holbert and all those guys over there.
Yeah, it's so much fun. That's my favorite place to do podcasts and stuff like that. And that's why when it came to college, I was like, I need to figure out a way to make this work. But basically, once Joe kind of started to pick up more stuff at the Late Night Grin, I reached out to him about like collaborating because I was kind of starting my own YouTube channel too. So we did a show called The Free Agents where we kind of just reviewed all of the free agents and talked about where we could see them going. And then we eventually kind of evolved that into a weekly show. So every Friday we would talk about a single free agent and plan out different matches and destinations for them, which now has kind of evolved into us looking towards the rankings in AEW, how they actually compare to the world in wrestling's rankings regarding their in-ring style, the matches they had, their success. We ranked the matches of the week, all of that stuff. Which is really fun because it's like a big review of the week, which is what I like to do. I like to tie a little bow on the week, especially on a Friday. But over there, it's so much fun. I'll pop on random shows. Like one time I did a Dynamite post show with Bob O'Neill. It was just me and him, and it was the funniest thing ever. It was such an odd dynamic. Me with any of them is such an odd dynamic, but it always works so well. So it's very intriguing. And doing the Late Night Grin like itself, like that 4-hour show, tests me like I've never been tested before. I don't know what happens. I always have to just be drinking straight water. If I drink an energy drink, I end up going to sleep, and it just does not work out. It's a strategy.
Oh, that's funny.
I imagine plenty of energy drinks. Yeah, the marathon shows on Friday nights are something to behold over there.
Hey, and I'll also say this: the Fleet 50 was like my favorite thing of like this past year. Like I love the concept of like getting the votes in and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think what y'all are doing over there at Late Night Grin is really cool. I really do enjoy it, and I wish I had more time to like watch everything that like everyone was doing, especially now with my shoot job that we're always talking about on here. Like I just don't have the time that I used to stay up to date with everything, but I try to catch Late Night Grin whenever I can and anything going on over there, because I think y'all are all great people over there, and I think it's just
most
fun.
of them, not all.
I'll say that, but
not all of them.
Y'all, it's just fun. Like it's educated to the level of like y'all know what you're talking about, and you deep dive onto wrestling topics, so you all really know your stuff. But it's also like super goofy, which is like fun to watch.
Yeah, we got something for everybody too. Me and Oracle, we do a Divas deep dive. We're literally looking at the evolution of the Divas title to the women's title that we have now, and obviously Joe streams every weekday at 10 a.m. like a crazy man. And then I do a couple shows here and there, and there's a bunch of stuff, and we all rotate. So it's a great mix of the personalities, and it's always amazing content, and I think it's very funny. As Shoot has taught me, I do live improv every week. Every time I'm on the podcast, I'm just doing live improv. So
it is. Everyone go check it out, latenightgrin.com. They're on Twitch as well. You can go over there. I think it's twitch.tv/latenightgrin. So, because I know there was like a YouTube issue. So things are like now just being uploaded. So go support them however you can. Again, most of them good people, fuck Bob O'Neill. I must say, everyone else, good person, good people.
I
Jumping back.
I just realized, by the way, that his Twitter picture is Pat Sajak from Rugrats. Like, I just realized that the other day. It's like, I don't know why it's that, but I put that together. Anyways, if anyone's gonna have that, it'd be Bob O'Neill. He's the only one ever. Anyways, go ahead, Joey.
I was going to jump back to the documentary. Who was maybe someone you were hoping to potentially interview for it that you couldn't do, or who was kind of the toughest to kind of track down and get a hold of for this?
I got a list for this one. I'm actually planning on doing a second edition of Wrestling with Whiteness since more people have kind of signed on and are willing to be a part of the next one. But out of the people that I did get on, it was hardest to lock down Darius Lockhart because he doesn't do many interviews at all. So once I was able to explain the concept to him, he was so open to it. He's like a big brother to me now, so I was happy to create that connection. I also interviewed Trisha Dora for the documentary. It just didn't make it on because there were audio issues, and I was so sad because it was in person too, and it was so good. So we're gonna have to have her in the next edition of it. But she was also pretty weary of doing the interview, but rightfully so. And then also for the next piece, I'm hoping to get Leo Rush. Leo was one of the people I wanted the first time around, and I tried really hard to get. It just didn't end up working out. Josiah Williams as well. I also have Swerve, Keith, and Jade on my list, of course, for next round. And I already have AJ Francis signed on for the next edition.
Nice.
You got to get out to Atlanta for when they do like Terminus and Battle Slam and stuff out here, because I've been going to those shows and you can get a ton of good interviews with a lot of really good talent. A lot of the people you just mentioned have come through those shows recently and stuff. Question for you: who is your favorite wrestler and why is it Tasha Steelz?
Oh my god, I wish I had the video of it. I have to go check out the stream of the Women's Wrestling Army show, but the inaugural show, I think on the film you can see me coaching Tasha to the ropes in a match that she's a heel in, and I'm literally just standing there at the ropes. I'm like, let's go, like clapping for her, like I'm making the most commotion, like I'm her manager. It was very entertaining. But I love Tasha to death. Oh my god. She was always one of my favorite wrestlers, even before I even interacted with her. And then after we did the interview, ever since then, me and her have just been super close. Like me, her, Swole, and Willow, like they're all like my wrestling moms and aunties. So it's always great to have them in my corner, and they're always supporting me like with everything. So I'm very excited.
You mentioned, managing or acting as Tasha Steelz manager. Any interest in doing anything like
I
that
have
in wrestling?
so much interest in that. Oh my god, it's all about timing for me though, because I'm literally about to be in college. So if timing works out in college, then great. If not, when I come out, I'll be like 21, so I'll still be super young and I can do it. I'm actually, for my birthday. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to this 1-day pro wrestling camp, and like they teach you to take bumps and stuff like that. I'm so excited. I literally tortured my boyfriend because I put him in shoot arm bars. I'm a shoot submission like man. I don't know what's happened to me. There's a demo reel on my Twitter if you're really interested in it, and I'm just putting him in a bunch of different moves. I'm like Angelico. I'm just transitioning from a bunch of different moves. I put him in this arm bar where I like cranked his arm up and out of his body. It was amazing. So eventually wrestling, probably not, but managing, I would like to think so. I would like to think I'd get there. If not, I'd actually prefer to be backstage. If I'm going to be honest, I'd like to do diversity and stuff at these companies and be a face backstage that actually is a member of the Black community and understands Black culture to help characters resonate more. But if it comes through managing and it ends up like that, then I'm happy with that regardless. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that about managers too. Like I think most of the best managers in wrestling are the ones that at least take some bumps. Like because you got to get your comeuppance eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like you can only talk so much trash and be such a heel or whatever for someone that eventually people want to see you get knocked over every now and then. So if you at least have that part of it and you wind up as a manager, I think that'd be really cool. And then, something backstage. And like you just said, you're so young, like you're going to have so much opportunity. Like I would just enjoy college and just do as much work as you possibly can. And if it doesn't feel like work, just keep doing it for fun and just keep stacking and keep building your resume. And by the time you're done with college, see, here's the other thing too. You're going to have that college degree to fall back on, which is like, that's so valuable, I think, to have just in general. So Yeah, very, very cool. Who's running that school? Do you know?
Oh, I have no clue. I just know it's like the Northeast Wrestling Academy is what it's called. It's up in Massachusetts.
Okay, gotcha. Well, keep us
I know
posted on
John
that.
Alba's worked there. John Alba
Okay.
recommended me there.
Oh, another
Okay.
guy who can fuck off, honestly. Like,
So
just
funny.
what does he know about managing and taking bumps and everything?
Hey, for what it's worth, I knew about Daniel Garcia before I saw him talking about him. But hey, but that doesn't mean I knew about him first. I'm just saying I know he takes.
Can
a
we
lot
bring
of
up
credit.
Daniel Garcia on this show?
God.
Is that okay?
Okay, wait, why is that a topic? I don't know what the inside joke here is.
I'll tell you off stream. I don't think I'm allowed to speak about it on air anymore. I haven't tweeted about him in a very long time, so.
Sorry about that, Jaychele.
Okay. So for the bit.
You know, I love a good bit. You got to commit to it. Love a good bit. If John Alba can get punched in the face, whether it's Daniel Garcia related or not.
Hey, I don't want any heat. I actually like these people. All the people that you're always like, yeah, fuck that dude. I'm always like, I like that.
Yes, exactly. Because I think I can get away with it because I think they all actually like me as well, and they know that I actually like them. So I can say fuck Sean Ross Sapp and fuck Bob O'Neill and fuck John Alpa. All right,
I just
fuck
prefer
all
to
three
feel
of them.
I like these guys, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, we like you.
No, that's no fun. That's no fun. Fuck Alex McCarthy as well. All these guys. Jaychele, you know, I know you're a big advocate for Black wrestlers and just that in general when it comes to wrestling. What would you say is like the thing that is lacking the most when it comes to diversity in all of wrestling, whether it be wrestlers, whether it be backstage personality, whether it be like the education of it? Like, what would you say is lacking?
Well, I think there's two main things that come up in the documentary. One, I think, is lack of opportunities for Black talent, which could also be deemed as quotas, I guess. Certain companies or promotions putting a certain cap on how many wrestlers of color or Black wrestlers specifically they feel comfortable booking for a show, or even women sometimes. But I feel like the more Black owned promotions that we see, that's actually one of my goals as well, is to create my own promotion eventually if I don't end up doing corporate work somewhere with diversity. But I would love to see more promotions within the community pop up and see them get more successful, because sometimes they lack support, which is incredibly disappointing. But I also think it's really important, like I said before, to get people who look like us backstage, even if it's managers, like just transitioning over to a smaller management role that's working with creative, making sure that these people of color or like people of marginalized identities in general are being advocated for and are being heard, because it could easily be the difference between wrestlers being perceived as stereotypes by creative versus them being them authentic selves and being able to connect authentically with Black culture, which also is incredibly marketable for them. If you look at wrestlers like Bianca and Swole and Willow and Tasha, they're all authentically themselves and they are doing great regardless of what company they are in. And it's very marketable, especially Bianca with her braid. That's an authentic piece of Black culture that the WWE is able to take advantage of and market. And there's a lot of braid sales.
Yeah, those are all really good points, because like I've said for a long time too that like kind of like the hip hop community kind of decides what's cool and what isn't in like culture, like a lot of the time. And I think a lot of that translates into wrestling too. Like when you see certain wrestlers doing certain stuff and act certain ways, you're like, yeah, that's really cool. Like I like they should like when I see Swerve out there, I'm like, he did like his presence and like his look and the whole vibe about him. It's just it's a little different, but it's really cool, and I think it draws people to that. Like, and I mean, he's not the only example. I can mention some. I mean, AJ Gray is probably my favorite wrestler on the indies right now. He's way up there, and it's like you hear that Waka Flocka hit, and I'm from Atlanta, so I'm like, this is my music, my dude. Like, and I love watching him do his thing, and he brings a different kind of energy than a lot of other wrestlers do. I mean, so it's like I think that's kind of undervalued too, and I think that was a good point you brought up where I think kind of once again, kind of like the hip hop community is really, really good about being really early on in trends that become really popular across the world. And they could implement that more into pro wrestling.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that sometimes there's a disconnect between the way that people are presented, like on screen versus off screen. Like there's a bunch of wrestlers who I can think of that don't get to be themselves fully on screen, but like online, they're super cool and they're super intriguing and interesting, and their personalities are so captivating. But you don't get to see that on screen because of the certain limitations.
Yeah, when I think it's safe to say that like throughout history, especially in like the WWE, I don't want to like single them out, but I mean, years, decades worth of like just, I mean, it is what it is. I think Jeremy would agree. I mean, how many just stereotypes and just grouping people together based on race versus like based on talent or anything other than race. And I think it has been a thing that's happened for a really, really long time. And I think it's good that that's changed more recently, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think that's why we need people like Jaychele out there who, you know, are bringing positive change and bringing more diversity to this whole thing. So I think it's really good what y'all are doing.
Thank you.
I mean, I said it on the stream with Phil this week of, especially when it comes to WWE, they love using Black culture if it benefits white people, and not always if it benefits Black people. And yeah, that was a conversation Phil and I had on Fightful Overbooked this week. Jaychele, I want to get you out of here on this one. What's the coolest thing in your room?
Oh, my goal chart. Oh, it's so different now, but there used to be a bunch of slots filled in there, and it was like my AEW interviews and my Impact interviews, and those are all gone now because I did them. So
Always good to take goals off of your goal chart, though.
yes,
There's
tomorrow
more
it
room.
needs to become a game sheet. I'm having game night with the late night grin tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
What games are you playing?
Oh, we're doing like Quizlemania style.
Ooh,
AEW
nice.
themed, yeah.
Ooh, okay. Did you already do the draft? I saw some stuff on Twitter.
Yes, I selected only Black people except for Julia Hart as my last pick.
Gotcha. Well, she's going to be House of Black soon, it looks like. So I'll kind of, sort of stretch there. House of Black, almost.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
That makes it even funnier. Oh my God. I love that. Yeah.
She's not in there yet, but it's pretty obvious, right? She's got to be joining the House of Black, right? All the signs are there.
Yeah, she has to.
Jaychele, again, the documentary is Wrestling with Whiteness. It premieres on your YouTube channel, which is Jaychele Nicole, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Simple.
All right. So everyone can go there. Everyone go follow her on Twitter. It premieres on May 28th. Check that out. Jaychele, any other last plugs you would like to throw out there?
Yeah, just check me out on Twitter. There is a link tree in my bio if you're interested in seeing some of my other work. I have stuff on Fightful Overbooked. It will be on the Fightful Roundtable coming up on Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm not very good with days. I know it as the 31st in my mind. So I'm very excited. Make sure to check me out over there. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter. All my information is there.
There you go. Everyone go support Jaychele. She's doing great work, again, with Wrestling with Whiteness and at latenightgrin.com. Guys, we appreciate it. Jaychele, we appreciate it. We'll be right back here on The Spotlight.